My name is Josephine Celeste. I'm a shaman who is a soul doctor of twin flames, and I'd just like to share with you a little bit of how I got here and how it all started. When I was little, back in the 60s, I grew up in the west of Melbourne, and it was way before internet. So life was very different back then. The family I grew up in was highly dysfunctional, but at the same time I was gifted but didn't even know it. I just thought it was natural, normal. And some of the things that happened when I was little were, what's called out-of-body experiences, where I would leave my body as a child and see myself sleeping. It felt a bit funny as a child, but because everything was more sensory based. And then I lived in that world because my mother had mental illness. So the thing is that, as a child myself, I had to take care of my siblings, and that's what you just did. You didn't question anything, you just did it. And I didn't even realise what was going on, like in my world. Whatever was happening, you just accept it, and that's just the way it is. So one of the experiences that I had that I'd really like to share with you, in the hope that you guys can get something out of this or some understanding, which was one of the more profound ones, was one time when I was sleeping, I turned around and it was daylight already in my bedroom, and I saw this blue-shaped body. It was a human body, it was quite large, through my eyes. Remember, I might have been 4 or 5, something like that. And this body, the feeling I had was, it was like a world. I just knew it was a world because it was blue, but it had no eyes, no nose, and it freaked me out a little bit because I was starting to just intellectualize things, and I knew it was a bit weird. And this thing, we had a knowing, we had an understanding, but unspoken. And it was connected to me through like a cord, like an umbilical cord. And it had patches on it, dark blue, and most of it was light blue. I know now that was actually my soul that I'd seen with my eyes open. In the language of the soul, it knows colour, sound and vibration. So those dark patches were different or intense past lives that I would have had. When I'd set myself up, and what I thought, Josephine, paid off the house, picket fence, all that stuff, all the materialistic things you could think of. Guess what? The rug was pulled from underneath me. And having been grown up Catholic and a real monogamist, I was shattered. I was 27, I was a self-made millionaire, and we had the business going, we had the house. I thought I had a marriage, and then I found out that he was unfaithful to me, and that just blew my whole world, everything apart. And I got divorced, and I was determined not to be a statistic, but hello. And it was one of the most devastating things I went through in my life. And I was looking for answers. I was walking the streets like a crazy woman, thinking, why the hell is this happening to me? I couldn't see who I was at the time. And I thought, why is this happening? I had no understanding spiritually, and I was looking desperately for answers. I was crying, and I can't tell you. Then I decided to see a psychic. I think out of desperation or hope, thinking I'd still save this marriage. I would save the marriage, get it? So I thought, I went, and she opened the door, and there was this woman with the turban on. And I went, oh my God. And there was a connection straight away. My heart jumped, and there was this knowing, like I felt like I knew her, and I know she felt like she knew me. And this was all unconscious at the time. And my hands were sweating because it was my first reading. So I went in, and my turn came to have my reading done, and she was trying to tell me it was over, but of course I wouldn't have it. And after the reading was done, she explained to me that she used to hear voices, and she had what's called an enlightenment, a spiritual enlightenment or awakening. And the voices were asking her to ask me to become a student. Now at the time, I thought, what is all this? Like, it's like, are you kidding me? I come from a very materialistic world. And so she said, I want to teach meditation. That's what she called it at the time. We're talking 1987. And the first thought I had was, how can I make money out of this? Like, I was thinking, what? And then it was as though something jumped in me, really beautiful actually, and just said yes. Used my mouth to say yes. And I thought, what just happened? I know now, of course, that was one of my guides that had done that, and I'm so grateful that happened. So I studied with her for 5 years, and she also showed me the love of a mother that I never had. I never even knew what love was at the age of 27. And I was overwhelmed when I was shown by her this unconditional love, this real love of a mother and someone who really cared. So needless to say, I was with her for 5 years until she passed over. She ended up having cancer of the bones, and I nursed her, and I did everything out of my heart, very innocently, naively, I guess. But I loved it. I just loved every minute being with her, and I was taught by spirit and trancing, and what that means is because of her awakening happened because of she lost a child. And so it can happen through a really massive trauma or illness. There's 2 ways that I know of it can happen. Or you can actually meditate and be on the spiritual journey or path. In her case, it just came. What happened is the spirit would come through, and it was the Great White Spirit and Isis, the Egyptian goddess Isis. They were my 2 main teachers. And they taught me things about the universe. She taught me the practicalities like tarot at the time, palmistry, healing before Reiki started, became very popular. And about the universe, which was one of my favourite topics. And I just loved it. It was like, I can't tell you, the connection we had and just the experience every day. It was so exciting. It was like something inside of me was just coming alive when all my whole life is falling apart. And I ended up with hardly anything, only my son and a little bit of money, not much at all. But somehow something inside of me, I don't know, I didn't care. I was just having this great journey with my teacher. And so I didn't know at the time though, I was just following what was going on. And that was the beginning of my life purpose.
Graduating Earth is a media platform providing education, awareness and insight for those seeking answers to enlightenment, spiritual teachings and life purpose as we move forward in these awakening times of soul development. Contact us at Graduating Earth on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Graduating Earth is created by Andre Lacoste. All videos are free to use and distribute.